We are here at the New York Stock Exchange with Gijsbert Groenewegen, who is the manager at Silver Arrow Capital Management. Let's talk about founder, president, CEO. You're the chairman. Exactly. You're everything there. Listen, let's talk about gold, because that's what you focus on. Silver and gold, precious metals hedge fund. We're looking at 1531 a troy ounce right now, and I would have thought with all of the inflation, not only concerns, but actually, evidence that we're seeing around the world, you'd see gold to go higher. Why not?
Well, because there's an inverse correlation, of course, with the US dollar. And the US dollar today made a big jump vis-a-vis the euro. And that's also why you see that gold hasn't made so much a headway as it normally would have under the circumstances. And people also choose the dollar as a safe haven in a way. When the market sells off, you see that the dollar gets stronger and that, other asset classes sell off. But you're absolutely right. Gold is an inflation hedge. And the Fed doesn't have any room to increase interest rates. So that would be the logical way to invest, because it's behind the curve, the Fed. And then you would have to hedge yourselves by buying gold.
What do you expect from the Fed? Because as a precious metal hedge fund manager, you've got to be so sensitive to moves coming out of the Federal Reserve Bank.
Well, that's the $1 million question, I think. What's going to happen, after QE2? If the Fed doesn't do anything, I think that you will see that the economy will fall further. I mean, we already see the first indications of that. I don't think the economy is sustainable. I've never thought that. And if they come out with, say, QE3, you will probably see that the dollar will decline further because, all the paper that's being printed and it doesn't sort any effect in the economy.
Is that a possibility, QE3?
I think they have very little choice, to be honest. And, but the biggest beneficiary from the QE1 and QE2 has been the stock market. And I don't think so much, let's say the middle class. I think that the middle class actually is being wiped out as a result of, the continuous lower housing prices. We are even at a bigger decline than in the Great Depression, minus 33%. And then we have additional factors now, which are much higher food prices, of course, and the high gasoline prices.
So we know you're bearish on the economy. We know what you think about inflation, and we're seeing it. You mentioned Brazilian inflation, 16%, Indian 9%, China 5.5%, the UK 4.5%, and of course here coming in more than expected. But what about equities versus commodities? I mean, you say that the equities market has been the biggest beneficiary of Fed policy, but commodities have had an incredible run.
Absolutely.
Can that continue?
That depends very much if, the BRIC countries stay in play. Because what's happening in, for example, Brazil, India, China, is that they are increasing interest rates or making, the market less liquid. And that's also why we see a slowdown now. Glencore mentioned that. And it's actually great that they're now listed and coming out with opinions about, what's happening in the commodities. They see a slowdown in China and in the US. In China, of course, as a result of the increased reserve requirements for the banks.
To a record, 21.5%.
Exactly. In order to mitigate inflation where it runs at about 5.5%. But what we also see in China, what I think is very interesting and people have to watch out for, is the number of riots we see. People are getting more disgruntled about, food inflation, about corruption, and by unaffordable housing, basically, in China.
So, but what do you expect it to be the result of that? I mean, we see such incredible inflation, but you say yourself, the Fed has no room to raise interest rates, no room to fight that inflation. Of course, here we don't have the big numbers, but people on the street definitely feel it in their pocket.
Yeah. But that, like I said to you, that's the $1 million question. What is going to happen after QE2? But I don't see any easy way out. Look, for example, at Greece at the moment. Yeah, I think this is only the beginning. They won't come out of it. It's impossible, and we will get contagion, effects in Portugal and Ireland, and ultimately Spain, and then ultimately for the whole European, Union.
I got to quickly ask you about silver versus gold because you've been a bigger fan of the smaller precious metal, shall we call it? What do you think now?
Well, I still think that, I looked at how silver performed. We know that silver went up to $50 an ounce. And, we know that all the commodities are denominated in US dollars, so there's an inverse correlation. But you have to look, actually, if those commodities also outperform in other currencies. And then what you see is that gold didn't outperform in the euro, whereas silver did. Silver did actually much, much better, and granted, it's a much smaller market. But I think that what you see happening is that a lot of people are buying physical And then the question you have is, I mean, would you prefer 43 ounces of silver or 1 ounce of gold?
Got it. Gijs, thanks so much for joining us. Gijsbert Groenewegen from Silver Arrow Capital Management.